everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Cynicast. I'm your host, Thatonefilmmaker,
Weasel Batches.
and this is our first episode. How you doing, man?
All right. Just got out of class. A little tired. But overall,
Damn.
pretty good. Yeah.
I mean, I just got back home from school, and well, shit. I mean, we've been trying to record this for like weeks now, so it's actually kind of good to actually start recording.
Yeah. Fuck school, dude.
All right. I guess we should start this out by talking about some film news, stuff that I've actually heard about. One thing I've heard about recently is Disney's actually starting to go back to old like Fox movies and censor the Fox name and insert the Disney name into them. Like, have you heard about that?
No, I have not. So, what kind of movies are they like planning on making? Have they named anything yet, or?
Like, I heard a thing that was either I think Miracle on 34th Street or It's a Wonderful Life. I forgot which movie it was, but it's specifically 20th Century Fox movies, I believe.
I've not heard anything
Like,
about that. I remember watching Miracle on 34th Street. Kind of a crappy movie, but that's beside the point,
I mean,
I guess. So, are they supposed to
think it
like
was
just remakes
recently.
or something?
I don't know. I remember the article just said something just that like they're going back to old movies and just putting like inserting the Disney name and removing the 20th Century Fox logo
It's
completely.
weird.
But I think that's with recent like maybe digital releases and Blu-rays and not like old stuff.
They must really be out of ideas.
Yeah, probably. Um, is there any other film news right now? Actually, let me search that up because I don't really think much is going on.
Honestly, I'm going back to like old movies. I just watched Casablanca today, and it was really good for the first
Mhm.
time. Yeah. So I don't know anything with like current movies going on, but yeah, I'm just
Oh,
watching old shit right now. So
one thing to talk about is Kevin Feige. He was just promoted to run like pretty much all of Marvel, including Marvel Television and Marvel Comics. So like he's in charge of everything now. Like, what do you think about that?
uh, for the most part, he's done well with the movies. So I'm hoping he takes in the same direction with the comics and TV shows.
Yeah, I think it said that he's been given like a creative thing where he's like the creative head of everything.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can agree with you. He's done great with the MCU so far. So I think it'd be interesting to see him. Like, I'm pretty sure he can do great with the television side, but it'll
Yeah.
certainly be interesting to see him run the comics division because it'll probably be more aligned with what's going on with the MCU. So
Right.
maybe the comics will start to be more like closely related to the MCU, but I'm not really sure if he's just going to go that far.
Right.
Um, as for other film news, I don't think there really is much else.
New films you're looking forward to seeing this year? Because after Joker, I don't really have any.
Yeah, I mean, Joker was kind of it. Speaking of
Yep.
Joker, let's talk about the Joker movie. What did you think about it actually?
Liked it a lot. I don't think it's a
Mm-hmm.
masterpiece, but I did like it. It's a really good film, and I'll definitely watch it again. I
Mm-hmm.
guess like to be more technical, I give it like a 4 out of 5 stars. But
Uh-huh.
um,
Um,
I was pretty satisfied with it.
yeah. Yeah, I've watched it. I've actually watched it. I think I watched it a couple days ago. It was my third time.
Huh.
Because the first time I watched it with my family, second time I watched it with my friends, and third time my friends just wanted me to go see it again with them. So I just decided to watch it a third time. And
Get better
to
and
be honest
better, or
with you,
like was it staying the same as you watched the movie?
um, like it was interesting because first time it was pretty interesting. Well, it was kind of negative since my parents weren't really into it the first time I
Uh,
watched it. I still
right.
loved it, but
Yeah.
they just kind of made me feel negative. Second time with my friends, it was much more awesome because we were all into comics and
Right,
stuff.
yeah, right.
So, and we also just wanted to see a good movie, so we like enjoyed the hell out of it. And then third time was when I tried to notice like subtle details that Todd Phillips put in the movie and the
Uh,
stuff Joaquin Phoenix did. And there was a lot of shit I noticed. But yeah,
I'm
Joker
surprised.
was, to be honest, really great.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm
I had a couple
surprised Todd Phillips
problems.
was able to like pull that off. With all those subtle details, because he made War Dogs and Hangover, and those are like
Yeah.
okay to good movies, but nothing on the level of Joker. At least I don't think so. Um,
And I mean, he made comments talking about why he left comedy and how he said something about how, like, oh, comedy's dead at this point. And
uh,
people pretty much got mad at him because they're like, oh, there's great comedians out right now. Like you can't just say comedy's
yeah,
dead because of cancel culture. But I mean, I think he was more trying to say just that comedy is just right now not good for him because like if you made something like Hangover and put it out today, it probably wouldn't be that successful
right.
or that highly critical, like, critical acclaim, that is.
I
Um,
I think he's a better like director when it comes to movies like Joker, like drama. Just more violent, more serious than like a comedy. Like he makes decent comedies. They're okay comedies. Like I thought Hangover was okay. Wasn't like a
mhm.
spectacular. Like people label it as like one of the great comedies because everyone knows about that movie. But yeah, it was just okay. It wasn't bad or good. But I feel like he like for his first movie, something like Joker, like he did really good.
A pretty good
Like
job.
yeah, yeah,
It honestly surprised me because I remember when they announced they were making the movie and they said, yeah, well, Todd Phillips is directing it. And I
right.
remember I was like, oh, who the hell is Todd Phillips? And my brother was like, oh, yeah, he directed the Hangover movies. And I remember I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, how the hell is he going to make something like a serious Joker movie that doesn't really relate much to Batman?
Right.
And
That kind of
that's
scared
why,
me too.
yeah, that's why when I walked out of the movie, I was honestly like shocked as shit to know that it was a great movie.
Yeah. I mean, the
Like,
trailers looked
I
really
remember,
good. I thought like it's one of the best trailers I've ever seen, to be honest. And I'm
mhm.
not alone on
The
this. A lot of
trailers were
people
really
say,
good.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So I still had some hope. Trailers can be deceptive, but Joaquin Phoenix
Mhm.
is a respectable actor. He's really good. He's playing the
Mhm.
main role, so still had high hopes. And
Yeah.
yeah, he nailed it. His acting wise, he was fantastic.
As for specific things I liked about it, the direction was awesome. I thought like specifically the direction for Joaquin Phoenix was awesome.
Oh,
I thought that the character he was given was so specific and it wasn't bland or boring. It was a character.
mhm.
Like I didn't look at Joaquin Phoenix and think Joaquin Phoenix. I thought Arthur Fleck or, Joker. And that's, through good direction and most importantly, good acting through Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
And also thought like the shots were fucking fantastic.
The cinematography
Um,
was great.
yeah. Another thing that I thought was awesome was the score because the
Yes,
score
yes.
was it was just like yeah I don't want to say creepy because it's not a horror movie but it was like it just made me feel wrong. Like that one scene where Arthur's on like the bus after they say he's going to be on the fucking what's it called Murray Franklin show. The camera like
Yeah.
zooms away from Arthur Fleck's face, and you hear in the background just like the violin just
Yeah, yeah.
that shit scared the fuck out of me, and all it
I
made me think was, well, I'm scared of what's going to happen to everyone else.
got,
It
Clockwork
was
Orange vibes from that, just like,
mm,
zooming out and the creepy music in the background, and yeah, there was
just
just like
terrifying so
yeah,
much.
it was pretty freaky, and again,
Um,
surprised Todd Phillips directed that.
yeah. What else is great? I thought that like I specifically loved how much it tried to be different from the usual Batman story. Like one thing I loved was how Thomas Wayne has always been described as like a really good guy to
Yeah,
make the person that killed him and Martha Wayne feel like the biggest villain ever
Right,
because
right, right,
Batman. I
right.
loved how in Joker, Thomas Wayne was like made to be an asshole to where like someone killing him actually made sense because of
Uh,
how he would treat the poor people in Gotham. I
right.
thought that was a nice touch.
It seemed like, so this is just my opinion, but it's more of a perspective thing. Like it's coming from
Oh, yeah.
Arthur's perspective on what Arthur on excuse me, Thomas Wayne is like. So, he was seen as this evil rich businessman, and I've actually had, debates with my friends about this, how the movie can be perceived, and, is it all from Joker's perspective, or is it all, like, real life? Is it dark and dirty? And I kinda like that because you could see this, like, happening in real life. This is realistic, and I could also
Mm-hmm.
see it from the perspective that it's Joker's perspective on how he sees the world, because
That's
he's, like, a mentally ill individual, so
That's
I
a
don't know.
good point. I actually didn't
Yeah.
think about that. Like maybe he isn't really as mean as we think he is, and
Uh,
it's just the perspective of Arthur
yeah.
thinking that, he's such a bad guy.
Right, right.
That's actually really interesting. Um, I also really liked the ending and especially how they portrayed the death of like actually scratch that. I think that all of the kills in the movie were fucking fantastic.
I agree.
Like it's messed up to say because of all the controversy and everything, but
Yeah, we're
in the
not we're
movie
not in
theater, whenever something
cells,
would
just to
happen,
point that out.
like
Yeah.
whenever something like would happen, like when Arthur Fleck was in the subway and he killed those business guys, like when he was getting the shit beaten out of him and he just pulled the gun and that first guy died, I swear to God, I was just it was amazing.
Oh,
I didn't expect that. I
Peter freaked
cried.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember the one that just like freaked me out the most was when he killed his adopted mom.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
went to he suffocated her and uh it's a fucking comedy or whatever. And like just, you could hear her just struggling to breathe and
Uh,
him just struggling to keep the pillow there. And he has like the cigarette in his mouth or something like that. It
yeah,
was
yeah.
just it was fucked up as shit, but it was great because from like he's not supposed to be a good guy, so of
Right, we're not
course
supposed
the
to,
movie
yeah,
had to be violent.
yeah, yeah.
Which I mean, thank God the movie's R-rated because if it was PG-13, I don't think this movie would have
Oh,
actually
definitely not.
existed.
It's too dark and realistic to
Um,
be that. It's not over the top enough. Like, if it was
mhm.
over the top violence,
Like
it probably would have gotten that, but it's not really a comic booky movie.
it's realistic. It reminds me of like Scorsese films from the 70s, just with
Yeah,
the Batman storyline.
yeah.
Like that's what a lot of people are saying is that this movie is like a mix of Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy,
Um,
with the whole like Joker and Wayne
All
storyline, and they just
Scorsese,
put those
yeah.
three things together,
Yeah.
which I mean is honestly pretty cool.
And people flack the movie for being a Taxi Driver copy, I guess, but I think it's
Like
its own
rip-off.
thing. Like, I can see how it can be related to that movie. I think the biggest, like,
Hmm.
correlation is that Robert De Niro is in both movies. That's, I mean, like, it shows
Yeah.
the corruption and badness of the world from, like, the rich and then the poor and how they
The poor.
behave, and yeah, that, like, the environment part, I can see. I think the characters are very different. I think the plot is very different.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's its own thing. It's its own, like, it has its own situations, and yeah. And
Yeah.
I still prefer Taxi Driver over Joker, but I just think it's a
Yeah.
stupid reason to hate the movie.
Yeah, pretty much everyone says like it's surprising to say I haven't actually like sat down and watched like Taxi Driver at all, and I
Uh,
really need to get to do that.
yeah.
Um, I've just heard a lot of people say that like the plot is similar, and I like watched the trailer and it felt very similar. But I can
Uh,
see where you're coming from, saying that Joker is its own thing, and just
uh,
you shouldn't say, "Oh, Joker fucking sucks" because it's Taxi Driver ripoff.
right,
Like
right,
both are different in their own ways.
right, right. Yeah, and again,
Okay.
I like Taxi Driver
Interesting
better,
things.
but yeah.
Yeah. Interesting things about the movie. Um, One thing that I did not notice, I had to do like research on like those stupid fucking theories and stuff. But one thing I saw that I had to catch in my third watch was if you look at the clocks in the whole movie, all of the clocks have the same time. Like from the
Like,
beginning of the movie all the way to the end, it's always the same time,
did not notice that.
which is supposed to signify the fact that the entire movie happened like at the end in a split second. He imagined everything in his own head, and that's why she's like, "Oh, what's so funny? You want me to tell you?" He's like, "I thought of a joke." She's like, "Well, do you want me to? You want to tell it to me?" It's like, "You wouldn't get it," and it's just the whole movie is in his head. Nothing actually happened,
Yeah,
which it. I don't want to say that's like the truth because I mean Todd Phillips even came out and said that most of the fan theories are
yeah,
bullshit,
yeah. I saw that too.
but the whole clock thing is honestly interesting as shit. Like I checked the clocks and pretty much all of them were the exact same time, which
Right.
like even in like the daytime and the nighttime, they always had that same time, which was pretty it was a cool thing to notice, like subtlety, what we were talking about, just the subtle details. Um,
Well,
was there
here's
anything
my
else?
biggest. Well, I was gonna say like flaws with the movies. I don't know if you had any
Yeah, I had some,
problem.
but you can go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I guess I have two. I guess one would be the dialogue. Um, wasn't as strong as I thought it would be, and some like pieces of dialogue felt out of place. Um,
Hmm.
but I guess my biggest one is like, while this movie is good, I love the character Arthur Fleck. I know it's kind of a combination of the Killing Joke and just like a realistic interpretation of the Joker. It doesn't feel like the Joker at some points. It feels more like a mentally ill person. Like it feels like a different character, because it doesn't feel much like a comic book movie, which
Mm.
plays to the movie's advantage when it's more realistic, and I like that it's more realistic. But I don't know. You could replace this character with anything and call him something else, and I would buy it. Like, it doesn't have to be the
Hmm.
Joker. Um, but that's my
Yeah.
only gripe, really. Still a really good
Um,
movie, but yeah.
yeah. I had some problems. Like, one thing that I thought was very weird was there wasn't really a lot of scenes, but I remember there were some scenes that tried to show Arthur Fleck going insane that I felt like really didn't need to be in the movie. Like the main one I can point out is, do you remember the fridge scene?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was like 2 minutes and him just like pulling shit out of his freezer and he just
And
crawls
then goes
inside,
in,
closes the
yeah.
door. Yeah, like it's a funny scene. I'm pretty sure that was made because, Todd Phillips is into comedy. He wanted a bit of like dark comedy. We're like, hey, look, he's in the fridge. But,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, if you cut that scene out, you would you wouldn't lose anything.
Right,
You already knew he was going fucking crazy. So
right.
there wasn't really a point to it. It was just, supposed to be a funny little tidbit.
Yeah.
Um, I also wasn't really a fan of this isn't really a problem. This is more just like a discussion of a cliche, but I didn't like how it's a cliche that's existed in a lot of movies, but a lot of insane people that turn out to be killers, always with their origin story on why they're crazy, always goes back to, abusive parents, they're
Mm,
beating the shit out of, verbal abuse, like it's
yeah,
always abusive parents.
yeah.
And I'm just saying, like, all kids that are abused don't grow up to be killers, right? Like
Right.
they grow up to be fucking surgeons or presidents or stuff like that. And, your parents don't determine who you are because of what they do to you. Like it's just a cliche I noticed, and I kind of wished that they came up with something else as to why Arthur Fleck has that mental problem in his head that
Right.
isn't just he was beaten up by his adopted dad,
Mm.
and that's kind of it. Like that's kind of it for problems. It was just those two, which is why I
I
don't
can see
really
that.
hate
Yeah,
this movie. Like, I, what would you give this movie out of like a number review?
like I said, I do 4 out of 5 stars, but I guess 8 out of 10 would be more of a number thing. Um, no, I
Um,
use Letterbox D, so like I just go off of stars. That's how I rank my movies. But what were you gonna
uh,
say? Yeah.
I think on Instagram, I gave it like a 9.7 out of 10, just because I
Okay.
really had no issues with it, apart
Uh,
from just the fridge scene and the whole abuse thing.
yeah.
But yeah, I thought Joker was pretty fucking phenomenal. And
Very solid.
like the one thing that was definitely weird about the movie, for the first time I saw it was um, there were just cops all around the place. Like they had this person that was like checking bags, and it
Uh,
freaked the shit out of my mom. She was just saying, I don't want to be here." She was just like scared because of what happened with I think it was Dark Knight Rises at that one movie
yeah,
theater.
that shooting. Yeah.
Yeah, like she was scared that I was like getting her involved in a shooting, and honestly felt bad. And I think this perfectly goes into talking about the Joker controversy and basically all of the shit that's happened in the movie, and why, if you go on Rotten Tomatoes, it has like a 60%.
Yeah.
Like, what's
Actually,
your
what is it? Has
opinion
it
on
changed
this whole
now?
controversy? I have no idea.
Um, it's at 68% and 89% audience score, but
Yeah,
um,
but just what's your opinion on this whole like critical thing with the movie and the controversy that happened?
well, as I said in my video, I kind of talked about this, but it's really stupid and unneeded. And I've seen people like on Letterbox reviewing the movie and bashing it because it's supposed to. They think it appeals to incels or you know very sad and desperate people. I don't see that at all. I don't know how they could get that. I mean, we're not supposed to like this character as a good person. We don't see him as a hero. And the last shot is him murdering an innocent woman and walking away with blood trails. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I don't see how they could get that. I think the media is the reason
Like,
why like people are going crazy because they're basically begging people to go out and shoot some theaters up or something by saying like, oh, despite the controversy, no shootings have happened, which is weird. It's like we didn't expect that to happen in the first place. It was just the media hyping shit up for no reason. And yeah, I think this
mm,
movie was very unfairly judged based on the controversy. I think it's overall just a really stupid thing.
uh-huh. Um, like after watching it for the first time, um, originally I saw the controversy. I didn't take it against it because most of the time with these sorts of like modern day controversies with movies, the movie didn't cause it itself. It was, the
Mm-hmm.
critics and the media that just like forced it
Mm-hmm.
upon it. And I I could definitely see some like dumb idiot guy that is bullied at school and is just oppressed and feels like he's being oppressed by everyone around him, going to see Joker, and then after watching it, he's like, "Yes, like I should kill the ones oppressing me," and then something bad would happen. Like I could see that happening, but that's not the fault of the movie. It's just the person that does it, which we can't really fix. There are just some people out there that are going to do something like that. Like that's
Yeah.
basically just my opinion on everything. I
Yeah.
wouldn't blame what Todd Phillips has done. Like I wouldn't say, Todd Phillips, you're going to cause the next Columbine or the
You
next
you
mass
can't
shooting.
blame him for that. It's not like he's telling people to go out and shoot people. Like that'd be one thing, but he just made a movie, and if
Mm,
people interpret it that way, that's their fault. It's not Todd Phillips or Joaquin Phoenix or it's not none of their
like
faults.
I can definitely agree with you that it's just it's not the movie's fault and everything. And I can agree with you on the whole idea that the media might be causing it. And Some guy will just see them saying that at the time right now, no shootings are going on, and some guy's like, "Oh well, shit, I'm gonna be on the news," and then they're just gonna go
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
shoot some people up. So
Exactly.
it's just they're making it worse by saying this movie is going to do this and do that. And in all honesty, like the film isn't saying that like just because the Joker is the main character, like Arthur Fleck, this murdering psychopath, is like the main character doesn't mean that he is the protagonist. Or
Right. Like there's been villain characters like who are main characters in the movie, and you're not supposed to see him as a hero.
yeah, like because everyone always used the protagonist as the hero of the story,
Right. Right. Yeah.
and that's the problem is
Very
that
mainstream viewpoint. It's you know, it's not
like
always
the
the
main
case.
character always has to be the hero fighting the villain. Villain loses, hero wins. Like that's always the typical plot structure. But with Joker, it's about the main character being a villain and he's against society. Like his own villain is the rest of the world. And what happens in the movie is his reaction to being, oppressed and abandoned by society. Like it's all a, I guess, a commentary on how everything was going down in the early 80s, in my opinion,
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah. That's when it took
Um,
place. So you know.
yeah. Um, Now, one thing we should definitely talk about is just specifically film criticism nowadays, because, I mean, again, people were just talking trash about Joker just because of the politics behind it.
Mm.
And like, if you go on Rotten Tomatoes, like I don't want to blame Rotten Tomatoes because do you remember when like Suicide Squad came out and it got just trashed by critics, and then like
Yeah.
a bunch of DC fanboys said, "Let's ban Rotten Tomatoes, let's destroy it, petition to get it removed or something like that."
Uh,
Like, do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah, it was just fucking stupid because there's this thing like even today, Rotten Tomatoes is not at fault here. It's like you can't blame Wikipedia for something being historically inaccurate. Like Wikipedia doesn't make their own articles. Like Wikipedia is people creating like articles. That's why it's like a user created website for articles. That's why people say don't use Wikipedia for a historical paper because it's not technically accurate. And the
Right.
same thing goes for Rotten Tomatoes. It's like just because a movie has a low percent doesn't mean that Rotten Tomatoes is behind it. There are certainly things that Rotten Tomatoes control. That's specifically whether something is fresh or rotten. Like I think Captain Marvel, on the critic side, I think it's still considered fresh, even though it should be rotten right now due to the number.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then some movies like are
I'll
rotten
check that
even
right
though they
now.
have like a higher number than some fresh movies. Like
Yeah.
they're choosing whether it's fresh or rotten based on, payments. So Rotten Tomatoes is at fault for some of this, but the main people that I blame is a lot of critics. They view Joker, they trash it. They say, oh, 3 out of 10, 1 out of 10, 0 out of 10. This movie is romanticizing gun culture and this and that and this and that. Like, it's just, it's sad because they're not criticizing the movie for being, entertaining
Right.
or not making sense. They're just criticizing it for the politics, which is stupid. Like
Yep.
that's my problem just with most critics in 2019.
It's the politics surrounding the movie and not the movie itself. I completely agree. It's
It's
ridiculous.
that's just a huge fucking problem that I believe is why like I can watch a lot of critics on YouTube and
Mm.
I value their opinion more than most people on, the internet because like your opinion and someone like Ralph the Movie Maker or your movie sucks. Like
Yeah.
you and them like specifically focus on entertainment value and not
Mm.
politics.
Yeah.
dissect the movie and say this and that about it and say what sucks, what's good, and you don't focus on what the movie can cause or if the movie is trying to be liberal or conservative. You
Right.
specifically criticize the entertainment value of the movie, which
Exactly. Yeah, I like to watch movies for the entertainment value or the writing or the characters and plot. Like, I don't give a shit about the politics surrounding it. It really doesn't matter. Unless the movie is like telling people to like go and shoot a certain group of people or whatever, something extreme like that, then yeah, that is a problem. But Joker didn't do anything like that. It's just talking about a disturbed individual who, you know, uh, suffers from a mental illness or many mental illnesses and, isn't specifically a hero, just a main character. And we see his story from, just him struggling out throughout the entire movie. And yeah, I don't know. I just didn't see anything like any political motivation coming from that. It's just a tragic story, if
it's a
anything.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Todd Phillips is not admitting he's a conservative that loves Donald Trump just because of this movie.
Right,
Like that's
right.
not what he's doing. So yeah, I think that's a huge problem. And criticism, honestly, from mainstream media, just I believe it needs to get better. And I don't know if it will, because it's been like this for a good couple of years at this point, and I don't know if it's going to change. I hope it does,
Mhm.
because I believe it to be just a huge problem affecting a lot of movies. And the only way you can really escape from a lot of this is with independent movies, like stuff coming from like A24 and stuff like that, where a lot of critics just decide to say fuck it and they don't care about politics and they just
Yeah, yeah.
review it honestly.
Well, that's basically gonna do it for the first episode of the Cynicast. Thank you guys so much for listening. It took a while to make this, and we hope to make more of these in the future. It was pretty fucking fun doing this. I'm your host, Blake Childress,
Weasel Batches.
and we hope that you will listen to more of our episodes in the future. Thank you, and have a good night. Or day, or whenever the fuck you're listening.
Hey guys. I just wanted to talk about the podcast because doing it was great, but if you didn't notice with the outro, it felt very out of place and the audio was obviously different. And to explain that, the recording software that I use to record me and Weasel talking on Discord is very glitchy right now. It's like a beta. And usually it works, but randomly this time it only recorded 38 minutes of my audio, and for Weasel's actually recorded around 59 minutes. So the podcast was originally an hour. It's just that apparently it just didn't pick up my audio at all, and I checked to see if my mic was good, and if everything was good, like did batteries or something die, and apparently nothing went wrong except the software. So I'm sorry about that. Whenever we do another episode, we're going to run more tests to actually like test if this fucking software works. And if it always has that problem, we might do like we record each section into like 20-minute increments to where section 1 is here, section 2 is here, and we make like multiple clips so that there's no chance of like audio just randomly not being there. So I'm sorry about that. It's just, it sucks that happened, especially on the first episode. But to tell you the truth, it was fucking awesome doing this. And really, if you want to know what the other like 20 minutes was, it was a Q&A. So at least we got the main point of the podcast in to the audio that I had. I just cut out what little Q&A we had. Hopefully the footage or the recording software is going to work better in the future. That way we can make full-length podcasts that will last about an hour. But until then, thank you guys for listening to this first episode of Cynicast. It was great, and if you enjoyed, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the Cynicast channel, or subscribe to Weasel Batches channel or my channel. Do whatever you want. I'm just glad you guys are here listening to it. And as always, I'm that one filmmaker. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a good day.